range of gymnocalcium, and it's a nice kind of intro to start because there's going to be a wide range here of beginner-friendly ones and also some of the more collector varieties.
The gymnocalcium is a genus of around 70 cacti species native to South America. These cacti are appreciated for their small size, mutations that produce dramatic colors, and their adorable flowers. They're valued not only for their ornamental appeal, but also for their resilience and adaptability.
So over here on this tray, these smaller ones, a lot of these are actually quite similar, especially things that look like this, or these very overcolored ones like this and this that are actually very similar to what you might find in your local hardware store. They're not going to be very expensive. They're not high up on the list of collectors' items because what the collectors are looking for are really nice, beautiful patterns, balanced variegation, things that look really unique. So if we take, for example, this one here, this is more of a collector's one. It's also a gymnocalcium, but it's an LB hybrid. Both of these actually are. And you can see how it has a really beautiful pattern, really symmetrical lines, stuff like that. And that's one of the things people tend to look for in the gymnocalcium when they get to more of the collector's varieties. It'll be a combination of certain types of colors are more desirable, like bright pinks that are balanced out with some dark colors for some nice contrast, and then really, really balanced symmetrical patterns. Some of them will have a very geometrical pattern, especially when viewed straight down from the top.
Are these mutations, hybrids, or how do they look this way? Or are they like this from nature?
Yeah, so they're really just sort of like any variegated plant. They start off as a mutation. The classic gymnocalcium that grows in Peru, which is where they're native, South America and some of those countries, are basically like this, but all green.
Okay.
And then you have some that wind up with some colors randomly, and then through selective breeding, they've made ones with colors to have certain types of looks that they're going for. Like this particular one here is a T-Rex hybrid. One very characteristic telltale sign of the T-Rex hybrid is these bright pinks and bright purple colors, oftentimes with some stark contrast and darker colors. And it's through selective breeding, which they take regular darker colored green gymnocalcium with some of these higher color pink ones and stuff like that, and they get these kind of looks. So a lot of the new named cultivars are being made in Asia. You have a lot coming out of Thailand. It's actually one of the epicenters of them now, which is sort of surprising because you wouldn't think Thailand has the climate for it. People generally think, cactus need dry air. They don't like humid environments, but it's actually quite surprising how well they do in these humid environments here. In fact, most of the gardens and greenhouses here, they do water them once a week. I know I said previously they could easily go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks without getting water. They do water them once a week in these high humidity greenhouses with plastic tarping all on the side and the top, and they do great. They grow fantastic then. So gymnocalcium can be propagated in a couple of ways. So actually, we have a couple examples of it here. What you'll notice is that they will grow offshoots on their own, that eventually when they get big enough, they can be taken off and just potted themselves and grown, they'll root out and grow just like a cactus. The other way is through pollination, where the flower opens and you pollinate it with pollen from another cactus. One of the nice things is that with the pupping out is that they'll do that naturally on their own. You can have just one cactus, you don't need to have multiples, they don't need to be pollinated any which way. They'll pup out on their own over time. Some will do it more, some will do it less. So you can potentially buy one and a year later maybe you have 10 and they won't all look the same. So you'll notice here is that these are growing out of high color spot.
Yeah.
So the spot here they're growing out of, it has no contrast, it's all colored. So the pup that grows out, the offshoot, tends to be all colored or over-colored. This one here is growing out of a part that has contrast color, and it also has some of the green. And if you can't, I don't know if you can see on the video, but if you come in and look on this bottom side, you'll see there is some green contrast in the pup that's growing off.
Okay.
So like a lot of sort of similar to aeroids, if you have a node that's growing out of an all-color stripe on the stem, it will be over-colored or all-color. Yeah. Whereas if you have a node that's growing out of a stripe, half a stripe and half non-colored part on the stem, then you'll have a much more balanced plant. So this one, for example, is also going to be one of the more beginner-friendly, more affordable types. But these really pink colors, they're becoming more common nowadays. But so a lot of people really like the really pink colors. You'll notice if you go to your local hardware store, a lot of the ones you'll find are going to be the yellows and the oranges, and you won't really find ones with this really nice neon pink color. And you can find some nice, really cool neon pink colored ones that are actually beginner friendly and affordable. And a lot of people are like, they really, really enjoy that because it's just something you don't see very often.
Now, you said they're friendly for beginners because they're easier to care for?
No, they're beginner friendly in terms of cost. Whereas opposed to some of these previous ones, like for example, I can point this one out again, like some of this type with these really high contrast patterns, very, very geometrical, like symmetrical patterns are going to be more expensive. This is more beginner friendly because it's not, if you look, you can see it's not super symmetrical. The pattern's kind of splotchy and messy everywhere, so it's not going to be as expensive. It'll be more expensive than maybe perhaps just a basic yellow one or orange one, but it's not going to be super expensive like a lot of the collectors one, and it still has a really interesting, unique look.
Yeah, well, that one actually does look more expensive somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Even if somebody doesn't know that much about cactus, can come up and take a look and say, like, wow, look at this. Especially if you look straight down from the top, you can see it has this beautiful symmetrical pattern. And like this one here as well. If you look straight down from the top, I mean, you can almost see it's like a beautiful star on the top.
Nice.
And that's what's really desirable for a lot of these people, these beautiful, the symmetry. Yeah. So a lot of gymnocalciums also come in almost a different type. So this is also just a type of gymnocalcium mihavaniaceae that we were talking about before, but this one's called a monstrose. And all types of cactus mostly will have a monstrose form, and that just basically means they're growing in an irregular way. So most of these cactus that you see, Astrophytum, the gymnocalcium, they have monstrose forms, and there's some called transformers, and they just grow really crazy and weird, which is why they're called monstrose.
You mean weird colors or weird?
Weird shape. Like, you notice the structure doesn't look like this gymnocalcium does.
So it doesn't have a main parent plant inside, like in the center?
It does, but even that main parent, so even one with a main parent plant normally would not have pups growing all over like that. They would have pups just growing down the sides like this.
Okay.
So it wouldn't grow in this giant, massive, weird clump. So that's called a monstrose. Later on, like here's another example of a monstrose.
Okay.
This is a type of gymnocalcium as well. It's a T-Rex monstrose.
Oh.
And you can see it just looks like this crazy weird clump. So this is also another type of gymnocalcium. It's just a T-Rex hybrid and a monstrose form. And you can see the monstrose form just looks weird and crazy, and that's why they call it monstrose.
But these like forms, they don't really exist or they don't survive in nature, do they?
I think there probably are examples of it in nature, and they would survive just fine. This monstrose form is not any weaker than a regular type. It's not like an over-variegated plant that's weak or anything like that. It's not any weaker, and you can actually kind of, you can eventually take some of these pups off if you wanted to. Most people don't with the monstrose because when it's a monstrose, it's actually more expensive. So these are gymnocalcium, like we've been talking about, and these are named cultivars. So they're still the same species, the same genus, everything like that, but what they do is they can, just like with aroids in the plants, when they breed one selectively enough to get a certain look, certain color, they can register and it becomes a named cultivar. So this is one that we talked about before, is a black widow. You see it has almost no green, it's very dark color, dark purple, sometimes almost black. People really like it. This one here is called an OG pink, and it's bred to all of the OG pinks going to have that kind of pink hue, that kind of color. Another one that's becoming popular is the sepia.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that they named it that because it has those kind of sepia tones that you might see in graphic design.
Oh, I need to Google that. Interesting.
So these are also gymnocalcium mihavaniaceae, same like the colored gymnocalciums that we were showing you before. And this type here is called a cristata. And basically it means crested is what it actually means. And they have a crested form. They don't grow in the traditional circular form. And these are also called inermis. So inermis in cactus means it has no spine. So if you see these, you can touch all of these, you can rub these. These don't have spines like some of these other gymnocalciums here. It is a gymnocalcium, but it's just called a gymnocalcium inermis. And in this case, it's a gymnocalcium cristata inermis. Because it's the crested look and no spines. And inermis cactus with no spines are more expensive and more desirable because they're less common than the ones with spines. So this is